If there's one thing that archaeologists love more than coffee, it is treasure maps. Not the kind that lead to buried doubloons, mind you, but maps that point to places where underwater archaeology has revealed something of interest. Because when an archaeologist gets their hands on a good treasure map, it can find anything from shipwrecks to lost cities to megalithic monuments. Hi, it's me, and this is my channel. Today we're going to look at the most recent discovery of underwater megaliths, which have been found buried off the modern coast of what is now Turkey. But first, if you love all things archaeology and history, be sure to subscribe for new episodes every week. And stick around after this episode because I've got a very special announcement to make. The Black Sea off the coasts of Turkey, Bulgaria, and Ukraine is a place that archaeologists have known about for a while. As far back as 2007, teams of experts were investigating the area in the hopes of finding submerged settlements from the Iron Age. To date, they have found several ancient Greek cities that were likely abandoned, when the land they were built on fell beneath the waves due to rising sea levels. While these are significant archaeological sites, it's a bit hard to get too excited about underwater ruins that are sitting at the bottom of a bay 100 meters below the surface. However, just because archaeologists were particularly thrilled about excavating submerged ruins doesn't mean that they were still significant scientifically. After all, uncovering these cities helped researchers better understand how rising sea levels affect societies throughout human history. Plus, there could be other treasures waiting to be discovered in the depths. In order to search deeper into the depths, archaeologists employed the use of a remotely operated vehicle, or a ROV for short. These vehicles allow scientists to explore areas of the seabed that would otherwise be impossible for humans to reach. Controlled from the surface by a team of operators, the ROV can take cameras, lights, and other equipment down with it to capture images and data that can be studied later. It's kind of like having your own personal little submarine that doesn't have to worry about things, like oxygen tanks or decompression sickness. But in order to use an ROV effectively, archaeologists need a map showing them exactly where they should deploy the vehicle. Enter our treasure map. In a paper published in Nature, a team of archaeologists led by archaeologist and geophysicist C.J. Cassons from the University of Southampton in the UK described how they used a detailed map of the seafloor to locate submerged prehistoric monuments hidden beneath the sands of time. Okay, I mean, they didn't actually have a treasure map per se, but they did have something even better. Science. To get a map of the seafloor, the team used a technique called marine seismic reflection. This works by sending out sound waves at the ocean floor and measuring how long it takes for them to come back. The waves bounce back differently depending on the composition of the seafloor. So archaeologists can identify different layers, such as soil, sand, rock, and even bedrock, without ever having to dig through all of them to see what's down there. This allows them to essentially map the seafloor like they would a cave, creating a three-dimensional picture of what lies beneath. And thanks to the efforts of dozens of researchers and technicians, the team was able to map the entire seafloor of the Black Sea in 3D. What they found was not only fascinating, but also totally unexpected. Within 2 minutes of deploying the ROV, the researchers found megaliths standing upright on the seafloor at a depth of 40 meters. In fact, they discovered 2 megalithic structures within that small time frame. As the ROV dove lower to the seafloor, its cameras captured blurry images of stones that seemed to form a line across the seabed. At first, the team thought these were boulders that had been moved by a recent storm. However, as the camera descended further, they realized that these stones weren't natural after all, but man-made. They were flat-topped and precisely arranged next to each other. And that meant that this was no ordinary rock formation. These were megaliths. In total, the team documented over 6,000 megaliths forming a structure over 22 acres in size. Each stone monolith weighed between 20 and 30 tons. That's heavier than a blue whale. And yet the people who built this monument managed to move them into precise locations without any heavy machinery. The team estimates that this would have taken thousands of workers over 12 months to complete. That's a long time to spend moving rocks. But seeing as these megaliths were built somewhere around 7,500 years ago, the builders must have had some pretty compelling reasons for doing so. Fortunately, nobody knows what those reasons were. Nobody even knows who the builders were. No written records exist from a society that lived that long ago. Whatever language they used probably wouldn't survive for thousands of years. What this means is that archaeologists have to rely on physical evidence to try to piece together a picture of daily life from 7,500 years ago. And unfortunately, the second site they explored didn't give them much to go on. Unlike the neatly arranged megaliths in the first site, the stones at the second site were jumbled together in what appeared to be a pile of rubble. Even still, it was clear that these stones weren't part of a natural landscape. Somebody placed them there deliberately. It seems that whoever built these monuments created large piles of loose stones near megalithic walls. The team believes these piles may have been used as anchors to hold down floating docks. These docks could have then been used to bring building materials to the various construction sites, including the carefully constructed megalithic wall. But why would a prehistoric society need floating docks? Well, apparently they would if they wanted to build on the bottom of the sea. Cassins and his team believe that both of these megalithic structures were built on purpose as underwater monuments. This makes them the oldest known examples of such structures in the world. It's not surprising that they haven't been found until now. As Cassins points out in his paper, visibility under 30 meters is extremely challenging, and autonomous underwater exploration technology is still in its infancy. In other words, we haven't had the tools needed to explore underwater archaeology until very recently. Plus, who would have thought to look for megaliths underwater in the first place? Megaliths are usually associated with land-based monuments like Stonehenge or the pyramids. So it never occurred to archaeologists that they might be lying beneath the waves. But thanks to advances in technology, we can finally map the seafloor and discover what secrets it holds. These new discoveries raise a lot of questions about prehistoric, maritime technology, and what else may be hiding in the depths of the ocean. The answer to that question may be closer than we think. Researchers are already planning to return to the Black Sea with more sophisticated equipment. Next time they hope to sample sediment trapped in the spaces between the megaliths to determine exactly how old the monuments are. They also want to learn more about the social and cultural implications of prehistoric underwater construction. How did people transport huge stones to the middle of the Black Sea? Why did they bother to create underwater monuments rather than build on land? And what other secrets do they hold? Only time and more advanced equipment will tell. But one thing is certain, the answers lie beneath the waves. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, check out one of the ones linked below, or subscribe for more. And don't forget to tune in next week for a special announcement that you won't want to miss.